welcome each one of you. And I'm so sure you are enjoying the sessions because we have top speakers from the BFSI ecosystem and they're offering the 360-degree perspective on many topics. So we have absolutely platter for you. And moving ahead, the topic which I'm going to discuss in this particular fireside chat is very, very important, not only just for you, but also for everyone, in fact, in the country and whole BFSI ecosystem, because the topic is customer service and customer engagement. And I have with me Sunil Soni, the CGM and IT from Punjab National Bank, to discuss customer engagement serving the different platters and synopsis. Mr. Soni, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Amol, and thank you, BFSI 2021, for inviting me for a fireside chat. And also wish you all success in this endeavor.
Great, sir. Thank you for those opening remarks. And to begin with, when the bank started adopting the technology and they started making the best benefit out of the technology, the immediate question which all the banks, insurance companies and the finance administration have is how to create a customer engagement, how to offer a better customer service. And in fact, now not just a service, but they're talking about a customized service. So what is your strategy at Punjab National Bank to serve and engage the customers anywhere, anytime?
I have gone through various different iterations in the banking industry,
Right.
and with a longevity of about 34 years in the service,
Mm-hmm.
having known various different facets and requirements of the customer. There was a time when banks would create a product, throw it to the market, and then look for adoption. But now is the time where actually you'll have to see that instead of only creating a product, the product has to be relevantly placed and should be adopted by the customer. Now it is while you're looking at the last segment which is adopted, so from that the journey has now become to tailor make the solution and place it in the market so that the adoption does not create an hindrance or it is effortless. So looking at this premise, where we look at making customers feel at home, look at their requirements, do a lot of market research, and then eventually look at placing a product in the market so that the product is relevant in times, is the need of the hour, is tailor made for segmented customers. Now, this is not one shoe fit all kind of a scenario, but it is a scenario where we create products for the benefit of specific segments of the customer so that eventually the wallet share of the bank, of the customer, increases.
So, valid point, Mr. Soni, in terms of tailor-made solutions. You know, but if I could ask you specifically at the Punjab National Bank, because your bank is also trying its best to offer this kind of customized solutions to your customers. Being a large bank, what are the challenges that you face specifically offering these customized solutions? Because ultimately you cannot offer individual service to individual customer. Maybe there has to be some blanket decisions that you have to take. So how do you actually, how do you actually do this?
As I said, that we do a lot of market research, we do a lot of research on our own data,
Right.
and we also go for some sort of surveys before eventually a product is
Hmm.
created and launched to the market.
Hmm.
Sure, the bank cannot have one product fitting all the one specific customer
Hmm.
and such solutions for every customer.
Hmm.
However, as you rightly said, it is the type of customer, which is customer segmentation, which determines the product which is to be pitched. And while you said, empowering in your opening remarks,
Right.
so normally the scenario today in the bank is less of footfall in the branches and more of do-it-yourself kind of a scenario for the customers.
So, what are the emerging technologies now that you are batting on? Because, to offer this platter to the customers, you have to use a lot of stuff, not just, big data, but analytics and the machine learning and RP and so many things. So are you mixing all of them or are you going like one by one? How are you, using those technologies?
You see, adoption of these technologies is going to be one by one because they can't just be, all technologies adopted in one shot.
Hmm.
However, while we are looking at making solutions,
Right.
we'll have to have an interplay of all these facilitations.
Right.
So while you're looking at, creating data analytics, so bank is in the process now of, creating a bigger data lake where the structured and unstructured data is also evaluated and assessed. The second aspect is, while you said, what is the kind of enablement. So all these technologies, as you rightly said, whether it is an RPA or it is data analytics or it is pitching a relevant product, so all put together is done by the bank to create and offer a solution to the customer.
Okay, I mean, yes, that is the ultimate solution. But you have a large base of customers, and now another, banks are also merged with you. So do you face in technological challenges because the segment of the customer is different? Maybe somebody is from a different state, different region, and there might be a customer from even urban area. So how do you actually? I mean, obviously, you told me about the research and everything, but if you could elaborate more on that front, sir.
You see, you rightly said that we've imbibed two banks. Last time when we spoke, we were in the process of merging them.
Right.
And today when we speak, we have successfully migrated both the banks or amalgamated both the banks technologically.
Right.
So with this, this technology merger, today we have a complete picture of our entire data set, an entire view of the customers. While you rightly pointed out, that it can't be just one size fit all. So what we normally look at it is what is the requirement at various different levels. Having had a presence of almost about 11,000 branches across different geographies, across entire India, across the nation, or there would be some customers who would be in a very deep interior rural setup, and there would be some customers which are here in the metropolitan cities, and in between we transit between the urban and semi-urban setup, right? So looking at all these segmentation of the customers, the requirements of the customers vary from place to place, from segment to segment. So normally, say for example, in case if I have to look at offering a digital product, because digital is the mantra today.
Right.
If I have to offer that in a metropolitan set, I would create a rich product, which is in the shape of, say, for example, PNB1 mobile banking.
True.
But while I'll have to look at the customers of the rural segment, where network would be a big challenge, availability of bandwidth would be a challenge, and also possibility of availability of the branch also is a big challenge. So I'll have to create a business model or a product which runs on very thin network. So, for example, PNB Lite, that is what we have envisaged, and we are moving ahead, providing that kind of a solution to our customer in the rural setup. It gives you the basic, necessary services, sans the bigger or value-added services to a great extent, which may not be required by them, or which may only be required by the urban or the metro setup customers.
I have a very important question, considering the large population, which is a young generation of India, most of them are the millennials. They are, kind of, when I speak to the bankers, they use this frame. Now the millennial generation is looking for a Swiggy-like experience from a banks, right? So, everybody has their different expectations. I'm sure the technology is helping a lot to bankers and even insurance companies to offer those kind of services. But how tough it is for you, to cater to this demand specifically, which the millennials have, and more importantly, going ahead also, because this demand will continuously evolve, continuously change. Because today they are expecting something else. Tomorrow it will go beyond doorstep service. So are banks like you in the position to offer this kind of engagement to the customers?
You rightly said, Amol. Engagement is the most important thing, because if I create products and if there is no adoption, that is going to be a challenge for the bank, because that is going to be a drain on banks' capital as well as non-availability of the revenue. Right? So, bank being an organization which runs on this principle has to necessarily look at the adoption and engagement. In case if we'll have to see the adoption, we'll have to go a step back and look at engagement of the customers. And while you rightly said, millennial is the next mantra, if I look at almost about 60% of my transactions are done by the millennial today. And millennials don't really have time to, walk back to my brick and mortar structure.
Right.
So looking at that, essentially we'll have to look at, and while you also made a passing reference to Swiggy-like experience.
Yeah.
So it is like quick bite, you do it now and it comes to you, right? So essentially what we are trying to do here is, create a model, create a product which is already in vogue, which is getting enriched by the day, and we are trying to give them everything under one umbrella.
Right.
So it is going to be a marketing experience in our mobile banking app. So which is basically engaging with the service providers, engaging with the merchant and sellers, engaging with the even people like Swiggy. So we'll kind of engage them, and through one application itself, the millennials would be able to do or make use of the product for most of their requirements, which are day to day for them.
But is it now becoming more challenging, more what you can say complex? Because what happened is initially, even if you look at the new generation, they are looking for voice assistants, they are looking for voice bots. I'm sure the BFSI companies are aggressively using that, and now you can. Most of the customer service has also shifted to voice bots. But this is continuously evolving and continuously a complex infrastructure which you have to build, and you have to always be on your toes. So is it really tough now going ahead for banks to offer the best customer service to the customers?
Well, I won't agree to what you said because banks have been providing the best service as per the given circumstances and as per the given time
Right,
zones in which we've been working, right?
right,
Or the periods in which we were working. So, essentially, giving the best of services in the genes of the banks,
hmm,
it is in the blood of the bank, DNA, as I may call it. And what is necessary is only the methodology changes or has changed over a period of time.
right,
Where we used to look at the personal relationships way back in about early 80s or
right,
beginning 90s. Today the issue or instance is that we have to now move to more sophisticated, pointed
hmm,
services for which the customer has to be adopting them, right?
right,
Having said that, so essentially coming back to your point, that we have to and we are managing or maintaining the best of the class of service.
hmm,
And also looking at your question, whether it is relevantly being placed and adopted.
hmm,
Obviously, you have to engage with the kind of type of customers that you're looking at, specifically in this case, the millennials. You have to speak the same lingo in which they, understand it.
hmm,
You have to offer these services in a jiffy as is expected by
hmm,
them, and also look at the resolution, because they would not like to one come back to the branches for any kind of resolutions. And while you're looking at voice assistance, even the bots have been used now in our products. Say
hmm,
for example, a product called PNB1, which is the mobile banking app,
hmm,
or the internet banking service, or even in our internal applications. For example, our HR related applications, we have assisted them with the bots.
hmm,
So today, it is more importantly that the people are able to, talk to the bots, get the solutions done, and in the least possible time.
hmm,
Even our call centers have now been getting augmented, or have been augmented, some of them,
hmm,
with the bots or the phone banking facilities.
hmm.
So it is basically an assisted model of banking which is taking precedence over the personalized banking experience, which used to be the mantra in early 80s and beginning 90s.
Let me give you some anecdotes, and if you could explain me more here. How do you actually measure the performance? So, for example, if I ask you to give me an explanation in terms of how was the customer service 5 years back, and what is the difference that you have seen now? Is there a change of percentage? If you would like to share, how much percentage? How much is the what you can say? The delivery time. How much is the query resolving time? I mean, and how much is the improvement that you have seen specifically in the customer service by adopting these technologies? Because we have been seeing a lot of BFSI companies going aggressively, adopting this. But is the measurement of the performance really good? Is the result really good?
So while you're looking at this the question that you posed,
Uh-huh.
I break this question into three segments.
Sure.
One is with regard to creation of the product. Second is with regard to the turnaround time for the resolution, in case if any, which is required. And third is with regard to measuring the yardstick as to whether the satisfaction for the customer is increasing or not. So three benchmark which actually enables me to iterate and evaluate whether bank is in the right direction. So to say that in case if I have to market a product, the time to market has gone down
Right.
considerably. From a
Okay.
conventional waterfall model to an agile model of programming is what is the adoption here. So where earlier we used to take months for a product to be there, today we are not taking more than a couple of weeks to bring about a small change or a change in the product. Or bringing about the product is just about a month's job. Second aspect is with regard to interacting or integrating the startups, where or the fintechs, where probably we have started getting into an agile method of deployments. So the time to market has reduced considerably today. One benchmark with regard to whether I am improving on that or not. Second aspect is with regard to the customer satisfaction. So the benchmark for me, or the turnaround time, if I say, so essentially, what is required is with regard to the turnaround time is that how much is the time a customer normally spends on my applications, and what is the time that they spend on a specific segment is what is being measured today. Keeping the discounts to the customers with regard to their age, with regard to the speed at which they work, with regard to the networks that they might just be using, which might create some hiccups with regard to adoption. So essentially, we normally look at turnaround time, which is seeing an improvement in rendering the service to almost about 50% plus than what it was earlier. And third thing, when I say looking at the customer satisfaction, is in the shape of how much is one the feedback that I normally receive on the site, how much of that is negative, and how many complaints are coming with regard to a specific segment. So we even measure the complaints which are coming and also look at the turnaround time for resolution of those complaints. So the type of complaints, looking at the number of volumes of the transactions that have gone over the years or that are increasing every day, the percentage has come down drastically to even less than zero point 0.2 with regard to the complaints, which is a healthy sign.
Okay. I think valid points, Mr. Soni. It was really nice to hear that the complaints are coming down and people are accepting more and their queries are resolved. Turnaround time is coming down. I mean, it's really nice to listen because most of the time people do not understand how to approach. And so going ahead, the call center approach. Do you think it will change or it will evolve rapidly? Point number one, because still there are a lot of complexities where the IVR, the call center assistant will say press 1, press 2, press 3, and sometimes the query that you have, the option is not available there, right? So how will you or how the banks will address this problem in the future? And overall, what are the new things that you think, apart from what is happening now, will be added to the customer service?
See, looking at the conventional model of phone banking, which was enabled long, quite a number of years back, and also looking at the call centers where the calls would land and the person would pick up the call depending on the availability of the call center executive. From that scenario to a scenario where today we have the enriched phone banking and also having the collaborative banking. While I say collaborative banking, it would mean that we have the chatbots today in our products, which are kind of reducing the answering time or the availability time of the customer executives for or in the call centers. So essentially, the customer can and is being enabled to do a do-it-yourself kind of a scenario or activity. Second aspect is, so that means the availability to the customer is increasing and the response rate or response time is also coming down. So they are getting resolutions, they are getting the availability of the services much faster than they used to have earlier. That is one. Second, when I said it's collaborative, it would mean that instead of only you and me, it is the bots also who have now come into this integrative stage. And today we are in a scenario where I can say it as cobots. So the humans as well as the bots are now integrated and are gradually integrated in a better manner to provide services. Some staple services, which are kind of banking, are being handled by the bots, and some services where the detailed investigation or detailed requirement analysis is required. Some bit of it is done by the bots, and the rest of it is handled by the people at the call centers.
I think valid points, Mr. Soni, and good thoughts on that. I think let's hope to have the best customer engagement from your bank and generally from the BFSI companies going ahead. Thank you so much for sharing your inputs and taking part into ETCFI BFSI. digital conclave here. Thank you so much for your contribution.
It was my pleasure, being here at ETBFSI 2021 Conclave, and I have actually enjoyed your questions, and also a promise to the people at large that bank has improved and will improve in time to come.
That was really nice, Mr. Soni. Great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.